US President Donald Trump is pressing advisors for what he has described as decisive options against Iran, even after pulling back from strikes last week, as Washington moves additional military assets into the Middle East, the Wall Street Journal reported. According to the report, US fighter jets have already arrived in the region, and an aircraft carrier strike group is sailing toward the Persian Gulf, moves that could give Trump expanded military options if he decides to act against Tehran. Trump's discussions come as the US deploys additional forces to the Middle East, including an aircraft carrier that was spotted by maritime-traffic trackers sailing west from the South China Sea toward the Persian Gulf, and F-15E fighter jets that landed Sunday in Jordan, said the Wall Street Journal. U.S. officials told the Journal that Trump has repeatedly used the word decisive in internal discussions, prompting the Pentagon and White House to refine a range of options, from limited strikes on Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps facilities to more far-reaching plans aimed at weakening or toppling the Islamic Republic. That language has prompted officials at the White House and the Pentagon to prepare a range of military scenarios for the president, including options that could seek to remove Iran's leadership. The officials were quoted as saying that Trump has not authorized strikes and that his final decision remains uncertain. But the ongoing discussions indicate he has not ruled out taking action against Tehran over the killing of protesters. In recent days, the president's national security team has been split on whether to move forward with a kinetic strike. A source familiar with the discussions said U.S. officials insisted any such military move would not include boots on the ground, and said the administration does not want protracted military involvement in Iran. One option before the president is a strike on facilities related to Iran's security services, which have been responsible for the crackdown on protesters, according to people familiar with the matter. As they deliberate and weigh options, officials have worked to assess the various risks involved with each, including the possibility of an airstrike mission going awry or prompting an outsized Iranian response. Officials also hope to avoid any broad destabilization in the region should Iran's regime collapse. Trump has repeatedly been threatening military action against the Iranian government for using deadly force against protesters, and he now feels obligated to follow through, according to officials. He is mindful of previous presidents who he believes failed to enforce red lines. Those include former President Barack Obama, who decided not to strike in Syria after its use of chemical weapons in 2013. Part of it is that he has now set a red line and he feels he needs to do something. A source familiar with the talks told CNN, adding that the president is almost certainly going to act. The question that remains, they added, is what type of act. The Iranian human rights organization Hrana, Hrana, has published updated data on the death toll from the country's protests. According to the organization, at least 3,919 people have been confirmed dead, and their identities have been established and documented. At the same time, human rights activists continue to verify information about another 8,949 possible dead participants in the protests. However, a medical report claims the death toll has already reached 16,500. The most violent clashes and the highest number of protester deaths were recorded in the Kurdish regions of northwestern Iran. According to a regime official, this is an area where Kurdish separatist groups have been active for years, and during previous periods of instability, particularly violent outbreaks occurred here. Throughout the protests, regime officials claimed that armed Kurdish militias had crossed the border from northern Iraq into northwestern Iran to fuel unrest against the authorities in Tehran. During the current wave of protests, serious acts of regime violence have been recorded, in particular in the city of Kermanshah, which has a significant Kurdish population. Many of the most high-profile deaths during Iran's recent protests have occurred in this city. In the city of Rasht, another town in northwestern Iran on the Caspian Sea, a large-scale violent incident occurred about a week and a half ago as protests escalated to a new level. According to opposition sources, regime forces forced a large number of civilian protesters into the city bazaar and set it on fire. According to eyewitnesses, security forces armed with heavy machine guns blocked several exits from the bazaar and opened fire on anyone attempting to leave. Later published reports showed the bazaar completely destroyed by a massive fire, while official authorities characterized the incident as the work of rebels. Let us recall that according to the latest data, the Khamenei regime is increasing pressure on Iranians. Iranian authorities are hesitant to fully restore internet access, fearing that doing so would lead to information leaks about the true toll of casualties in the recent violent crackdown on anti-government protests, according to the Financial Times, citing accounts from Tehran residents and human rights activists. International human rights organizations estimate that the death toll during the crackdown on protests could be in the thousands. However, the Iranian leadership has not released official figures. For over a week, the internet in the country has been only partially operational, seriously complicating the exchange of information and the search for people with whom contact was lost after the protests. Tehran, home to approximately 10 million people, has fallen into a state of uneasy calm following the violent suppression of demonstrations. Retailers are officially open, but customers are almost non-existent. ATMs are covered with protective bars, cashless payments are unreliable, and daily activity in the city is virtually paralyzed by communication outages. At Haftikhoz Square, one of the most important commercial hubs in the eastern part of the capital, armed police in black uniforms stand guard instead of bustling shops. According to eyewitnesses, snipers are stationed in armored vehicles. In the center of the square, the charred carcass of a city bus burned during the unrest still stands with a sign above it reading, "Paid for with your taxes."